I want you to just imagine something for a second. It's a completely normal Friday afternoon.
Right. The work week is finally winding down.
Exactly. You're stepping out of your car, maybe you're running a quick errand, mentally running through your grocery list. The sun is shining, and everything is just, utterly mundane.
You're completely on autopilot.
Yeah. And then your phone rings. You look down. It's an unknown number. Or, maybe it's even your own child's number. So you answer.
Thinking it's just a quick hello.
Right. But instead of a telemarketer or a normal greeting, you are instantly hit with the sound of your own child, screaming for help, sobbing in absolute visceral terror. In a matter of seconds, your ordinary Friday just shatters.
I mean, it is the absolute definition of a nightmare. It's the kind of sudden, shocking scenario that just paralyzes you from the inside out, completely overriding your ability to think rationally.
And what makes this truly terrifying is that, as a criminal investigator, I can tell you this isn't some hypothetical scenario from a thriller novel. This is happening right now to real people all across the country.
Yeah, it's becoming incredibly common.
So in today's deep dive, we are examining a really chilling collection of investigative reports, cybersecurity research, and even congressional testimonies regarding a terrifying new frontier of extortion. We're talking about AI-generated virtual kidnappings.
It's a completely new brand of psychological warfare.
It really is. Our mission today is to dissect exactly how this tech works, the specific psychological manipulation it deploys, and why perpetrators are currently slipping through these massive loopholes in our legal system.
And most importantly, we need to talk about the one crucial offline step you absolutely must take today to protect your family.
Okay, let's unpack this. We are looking at a case out of Scottsdale, Arizona. It's January 20th, 2023. A mother named Jennifer DeStefano. Walk us through the anatomy of this incident.
Well, to understand the sheer terror of this event, you really have to picture the incredibly mundane setup. Jennifer is managing this bustling household with 4 kids.
Which is chaos on a good day.
Oh, absolutely. So it's a weekend, and the family employs a classic divide and conquer strategy. Jennifer is running errands in town and pulling into the parking lot of a local dance studio to pick up her 13-year-old daughter.
Okay, so she's alone in the car.
Right. And meanwhile, her husband is about 150 miles away, way up in the mountains, taking their youngest son and their 15-year-old daughter, Brianna, for some ski race training.
Which creates a physical distance.
Yeah.
As an investigator, I look at that and see a vulnerability that these operations exploit just perfectly.
Precisely. So Jennifer is just stepping out of her car into the crisp January air, and her cell phone rings. It's an unknown number. Her initial instinct is to just, ignore it.
Like we all do.
Right. But in the back of her mind, this quiet anxiety whispers, Brianna's up on a mountain skiing. What if someone is calling from a hospital?
Yeah, you can't risk letting that go to voicemail.
Exactly. So she answers. And the moment she puts the phone to her ear, it's Brianna on the line. But Brianna isn't saying hello. She is sobbing, hyperventilating, barely able to breathe. She cries out, "Mom, I messed up."
Man, as a parent, your heart just stops.
Yeah.
But you probably don't instantly jump to a violent crime, right? You'd think of a car crash or a ski accident.
And that's exactly what Jennifer thinks. She tries to soothe her, saying, "It's okay, Bri. Calm down. What's wrong? Did you fall?"
Which is the natural reaction.
But before she can even finish her sentence, a man's voice cuts into the audio. A deep, aggressive voice. He barks at Brianna to lay down and put her head back. Then Jennifer hears her own daughter cry out in the background, "Mom, these bad men have me! Help me! Help me!"
Jesus, the sensory overload in that confined space of her car must have been absolutely deafening.
It is meticulously crafted psychological violence. I mean, the man then takes the phone completely. He tells Jennifer he has her daughter. He demands $1 million in cash.
$1 million.
Yes, and he explicitly threatens that if she calls the police or breathes a word of this to anyone, she will never see Brianna again. He graphically outlines his intentions to drug her, sexually assault her, and leave her for dead across the border in Mexico.
Oh my God.
All the while, Jennifer can hear her daughter pleading in the background until the audio goes muffled, which simulates the sound of Brianna physically being dragged away from the phone.
It's like a digital ghost story. But the ghost has a gun to your child's head and is demanding cash. I mean, how's a parent supposed to apply logic or critical thinking when their brain is flooded with the biological panic of hearing their own child's unique cry?
Well, what's fascinating here is they aren't supposed to. They really aren't. What we are seeing here is the deliberate weaponization of evolutionary biology.
So the panic is the point.
Exactly. The panic isn't a side effect of the scam. It is the fundamental mechanism that makes the scam work. When a human being hears the distressed cry of their offspring, the amygdala, the brain's fear center, completely hijacks the prefrontal cortex.
Which is where logic, reason, and skepticism live.
Right. The perpetrators do not want the victim thinking clearly. They rely on pure, unadulterated fear to drive every single decision. They need you moving fast, acting on instinct rather than analysis.
But because their entire business model relies on the victim panicking and acting fast, what happens when a victim physically cannot get the money quickly, the whole algorithm of the scam just breaks down, doesn't it?
It absolutely breaks down, and that is where the frantic negotiation in that dance studio parking lot reveals the true nature of the crime. Jennifer is shaking, terrified. She pushes through the doors of the studio.
She goes inside where the other parents are.
Yeah, and she's incredibly sharp under pressure, honestly. She keeps the man on speakerphone, but she mutes her own microphone so he can't hear her environment, and she just starts screaming for help to the other parents inside.
Wow, that's smart. Because pulling other people into the crisis breaks the isolation the scammer is trying to build.
It changes the entire dynamic. The other moms swarm her. One rushes outside to dial 911. The rest surround Jennifer, listening to this man deliver horrifying threat after horrifying threat.
That has to be so surreal for those other parents.
Right. And then Jennifer unmutes her microphone. She begs to speak to Brianna again, but the man refuses. He doubles down on the demand for $1 million.
But she doesn't have $1 million in a briefcase.
No, and as Jennifer starts pushing back on the logistics, frantically asking how on earth she is supposed to access $1 million in physical cash on a weekend afternoon, the scammer realizes his script has hit a wall.
He realizes she literally cannot pull that off quickly.
Exactly. So completely unprompted, he drops the ransom.
Let me guess, a huge drop, like from $1 million down to $50,000 cash. And they always refuse wire transfers because they can be traced by investigators like me.
Spot on. He tells Jennifer to gather the 50 grand and he's going to drive a white van to pick her up. He plans to put a bag over her head, drive her to an undisclosed location to exchange the cash for Brianna, and promises that if she is missing a single dollar, they are both dead.
This is escalating so fast.
And meanwhile, Jennifer's younger daughter is standing right there in the dance studio, frozen in terror, listening to a stranger threaten to murder her sister and her mother.
The collateral trauma rippling through that room is just staggering. And here is where the timeline really splits. Another mom grabs the younger daughter's phone to call Jennifer's husband, knowing he is more likely to answer a call from his other kid.
Right, because he's ignoring unknown numbers, too.
Exactly. It rings and rings, going straight to voicemail. Then the mom who ran outside to call 911 rushes back inside. And this blew my mind when I was reading the reports. The police dispatcher had told her immediately, this has to be fake. We're seeing a massive spike in these. It's an AI recording.
It's wild how fast the dispatcher knew.
Yeah. And at the exact same moment, someone finally gets a hold of Jennifer's husband. He had been in the shower. He answers, deeply confused by the panic on the other end of the line, because he is looking right at Brianna.
She's just right there.
Yeah, she's sitting right there in the ski lodge, perfectly safe, quietly doing her homework.
Which is such a massive relief, but also so jarring.
But here's where it gets really interesting. The dispatcher knew it was AI, right? The husband answered the phone and confirmed Brianna was physically safe, but Jennifer still didn't believe it. I mean, how is that possible?
Well, that is the most insidious part of this technology. We are talking about a terrifying psychological threshold that Jennifer crossed in that parking lot. She could no longer trust her own senses.
Because it sounded so real.
Exactly. She pushed back on the dispatcher's dismissal because this wasn't just some generic recording of a girl crying. This was a dynamic back-and-forth conversation. The AI had captured the distinct, unique quiver in Brianna's cry.
That detail is just chilling.
Even when someone finally handed Jennifer a phone and the real Brianna was on the line, Jennifer kept asking, "Is it really you? Are you really okay?" She had to ask over and over before the reality actually sank in.
It completely short-circuits human trust.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, looking through the lens of human evolution, our entire social fabric, our ability to survive as a species, is built on recognizing the voices of our kin.
Yeah, it's wired into us.
It is an ancient, deeply embedded survival tool. To have that hijacked, to have your own senses weaponized against you so flawlessly that you doubt the real person when they speak to you. I mean, it is a profound violation of our reality.
So Jennifer finally realizes her daughter is safe. The fear turns to absolute fury. She tells the would-be kidnapper exactly what she thinks of his extortion attempt, hangs up, and literally collapses on the floor.
The adrenaline crush must have been intense.
Now, discovering that Brianna was safe should have been the end of the nightmare. But surviving a virtual kidnapping plunges victims into an agonizing void of law enforcement accountability. Walk us through the police response, because as an investigator, this is where the story gets incredibly frustrating for me.
I can imagine. So, the entire agonizing ordeal lasted about 4 minutes. But the police never even showed up to the parking lot.
Unbelievable.
Because the dispatcher had already labeled it a scam, they didn't dispatch a single officer to the scene. When Jennifer followed up with local law enforcement later that night, she was essentially told, no harm, no foul. They basically dismissed the incident as a prank.
A prank. I mean, after a man threatened to drug and assault her daughter, if law enforcement writes this off as a prank just because a physical crime didn't happen, aren't they completely ignoring the psychological assault? How does the legal system justify that response?
It comes down to the archaic wording of our criminal codes. In many jurisdictions, extortion laws require the actual transfer of funds to trigger a major felony investigation.
Right, there needs to be material loss.
Exactly. And kidnapping laws require physical movement or detainment. Because no physical kidnapping occurred and no money changed hands, the legal code simply doesn't have a robust category for virtual psychological terror. In the eyes of the outdated law, no tangible crime was committed.
Which leaves the victim feeling completely abandoned by the very system designed to protect them. And Jennifer couldn't let it go. She stayed up all night, terrified they were being actively stalked.
You feel so exposed.
But here's the mystery I really need you to solve. She scoured Brianna's digital footprint to find out where they got the voice. But Brianna's TikTok and Instagram accounts were entirely private. She only had a few dozen approved followers.
So she wasn't some public influencer.
Not at all. There were a couple of athletic-related clips, but absolutely nothing that could explain the sheer volume and emotional depth of the audio Jennifer heard. If her profile was locked down, how on earth did the scammers clone her voice so perfectly?
Well, this is where we have to talk about the data scraping economy. The criminals don't need Brianna to have a public YouTube channel. All they need are loose fragments scattered across the web.
Like what, exactly?
Perhaps a public school volleyball game was streamed online, and you can hear Brianna cheering in the background. Or maybe a friend with a public profile posted a short video of them laughing at a mall.
Oh, wow. So you can't control what others post?
Right. Data brokers, these companies that legally use automated software to scrape and harvest digital footprints, pull all these fragments together. That data is frequently sold, leaked, or stolen, ending up on the dark web where scam networks purchase it in bulk.
So even if you are incredibly careful, your friends or your school might inadvertently expose your biometric data. And the trauma this causes doesn't just vanish because the call ends.
No, the trauma is lasting. Brianna, the 15-year-old whose voice was stolen, continues to carry that emotional scar.
It has to change how you see the world.
Ironically, she is now in college studying AI and economics, learning to understand the very technology that was used to terrorize her family. And Jennifer quickly realized she wasn't alone. When she posted a warning to her local next-door community, her inbox just flooded with similar horrors.
Really? Just in her local area?
Yeah. People reported fake arrests, fake medical emergencies. A friend of Jennifer's got a call from her 8-year-old son begging for his life using his private family nickname, and this kid didn't even own a phone.
That is terrifying. It shows the sheer scale of this operation. And the reason law enforcement is treating these life-shattering calls as pranks is that our legal framework is entirely outpaced by the cheap, fast, and borderless nature of the technology.
It's a complete mismatch.
Let's dig into the research from the cybersecurity company McAfee, because this is the part that truly exposes the mechanics of the threat. It takes merely 3 seconds of audio to clone a voice. Less time than it takes to say, "Hello, who's calling?" Explain how 3 seconds becomes a fluent, emotional conversation.
Well, the AI isn't just acting like a tape recorder, cutting and pasting words together like an old ransom note made of magazine clippings.
Right. It's not pre-recorded snippets.
Exactly. When the artificial intelligence software analyzes those 3 seconds of audio, it is mapping the micro-tremors, the specific cadence, and the pitch variations of the voice. It builds a complex mathematical model of that person's vocal tract.
That's incredibly sophisticated.
And once that mathematical model is built, it is plugged into a text-to-speech engine. The scammer can type whatever they want into a text box, like, "Mom, these bad men have me," and the software generates a brand new waveform using that unique vocal fingerprint. That is how it mimics the quiver and the emotion in real time.
And it is terrifyingly accessible.
Yeah.
The software to do this costs as little as $5 a month. But there is another technological trick here. How did Brianna's actual phone number show up on Jennifer's caller ID? Because if I see my kid's name on my screen, my guard is completely down.
Naturally. And that is achieved through a technique called spoofing, utilizing Voice over Internet Protocol, or VoIP. The scammers route their call through an internet service rather than a traditional copper phone line.
Okay, so they're bypassing the old systems.
Right. The critical flaw in our aging telecommunications infrastructure is that it doesn't automatically verify the true origin of a call. The scammer software simply tells the receiving network, hey, display this specific phone number to the person I'm calling.
And the network just accepts it.
The network just accepts the command blindly and displays your loved one's name on your screen.
So what does this all mean? It's basically like someone weaponizing your fingerprint, but they can buy the weapon for the price of a cup of coffee and the government just shrugs. And this combination of cheap voice cloning and caller ID spoofing has birthed a devastating new business model. FBI research compares these operations to high-volume call centers. They're not carefully stalking individual families. They favor volume over precision.
Exactly. Operators sit in boiler rooms, cycling through thousands of scraped numbers, running a script, threatening, demanding, and moving on. Many of these scam centers originate outside the U.S., frequently in Mexico, which is why they heavily target Latino families in the U.S. Southwest.
Because the geographic threat makes sense to them.
Yes, it makes the threat of a loved one being dragged across the border instantly believable to that specific demographic. They don't need a high success rate because when a victim does break down and pay, the average payout is $11,000.
That is a massive return on a $5 a month investment. And the tactics are escalating. In late 2025, the FBI had to issue a new warning because criminals now pairing these AI voice calls with AI-altered proof-of-life photos.
Yeah, this is getting really dark. They are generating manipulated images of the loved one bound or injured and sending them as vanishing messages.
Vanishing messages, like on Snapchat or WhatsApp.
Exactly. The photo disappears from the phone screen before the victim's brain has a chance to critically analyze the visual flaws. You know, like weird shadows or strange fingers, which are common AI artifacts.
Which brings us to the legislative lag. Why is the government failing to stop this?
The pacing of technological advancement is simply moving faster than the legislative process. I mean, while it's true that for the first time, all 50 states introduced some form of AI-related legislation in 2025, the federal landscape remains heavily fractured.
It's totally disjointed.
There is no comprehensive, unified federal law specifically governing AI voice cloning. Lawmakers are struggling to balance the desire to regulate dangerous open-source AI tools with the pushback from the tech sector regarding innovation and privacy.
So it's essentially the Wild West right now.
It really is. And while that complex regulatory debate drags on in Washington, average citizens are being terrorized in their local grocery store parking lots.
Because the government cannot currently protect citizens, the responsibility of defense falls entirely on the individual. This is vital to understand, because these scams are no longer just psychological terror, they are escalating into real physical danger. Listen to what happened recently in Kansas.
Oh, this case is horrifying.
Scammers spoofed a mother's phone number and faked her voice in a hostage call made to her young children. A man claimed he had a gun to their mom's head. The kids, acting perfectly rationally, hung up and called 911.
Which triggered a massive, heavily armed police response.
Right. The police tracked the mother's phone location to a moving car. Thinking they were intercepting an active mobile hostage situation, they executed a high-risk traffic stop. They pulled the car over with weapons drawn, pointing firearms at an entirely innocent woman who was just driving a friend to pick up his car.
She must have been terrified.
She had no idea her voice and her caller ID were being used to orchestrate this chaos. Luckily, no one was physically hurt that time, but you can see how easily this digital prank turns lethal when armed officers are acting on manipulated data.
This raises an important question, right? The potential for a tragic misunderstanding is sky high. This is why having an actionable defense playbook is non-negotiable for every single family right now.
So if I answer my phone today and I hear my family member screaming, what is the actual playbook? From an investigative and security standpoint, how do I defend myself in that moment?
First, and I know this is the hardest but most critical step,
Mm-hmm.
you have to force yourself to slow down. The scam is fueled entirely by your speed and your panic. If you stop moving fast, their high-volume script starts to fall apart.
Okay, slow down. What next?
Second, while you keep the scammer on the line, immediately try to contact the loved one on a separate device.
Like having a coworker text your husband while you keep the scammer talking.
Precisely. Use a number you already have saved in your phone, never a number the caller provides. Third, the National Cybersecurity Alliance recommends asking the caller to switch to a video call.
Because the AI can't do video yet.
Well, currently, it is very computationally difficult for these volume-based scam centers to run a real-time audio clone and a real-time video deepfake simultaneously. And finally, if they send you any proof of life photos or audio clips, screenshot them or screen record them immediately before they vanish.
Because that digital footprint might be the only evidence investigators like me have to track the network.
Exactly.
Those are great reactive steps. But the ultimate proactive defense, the thing every cybersecurity expert is talking about, is the family safe word. But I want to dig into the nuances of this, because it's wild. But you can't just use a pet's name or your street address. The data brokers we talked about can scrape that off your Facebook in 2 seconds.
Yeah, it has to be obscure.
And UC Berkeley forensics professor Hani Farid goes a step further. He says you shouldn't even speak this safe word out loud anywhere near your smartphone. You have to share it in person or write it down on a piece of paper. Are we crossing into total paranoia here, or is this just standard digital hygiene now?
Treating your phone as an active listening device is no longer paranoia. It is simply the reality of the digital age. Smartphones and smart speakers constantly harvest background audio data to optimize advertising algorithms.
So they really are listening.
A safe word is entirely useless if it's been vacuumed up by an app, sold by a data broker, and ends up in the hands of the same networks running these scams. And Professor Farid adds another crucial point. You have to practice it.
Practice the safe word?
Yeah, you won't use this obscure word in your daily life, so you have to test your family occasionally. It has to become pure muscle memory so that you remember it during a crisis.
That makes total sense. You have to train for the emergency before it happens.
And if you are targeted, you must report it. Even if you figure out it's a scam in 10 seconds and hang up. Local police might dismiss it because of the legal loopholes we discussed, but you need to bypass them. Report the incident directly to ic3.gov or call 1-800-HAL-FBI.
Because the feds need the data.
Right. These are decentralized international networks. Federal investigators cannot track a threat they don't know exists. Every single data point, a phone number, a screenshot, a recording of the AI voice helps authorities map the operations and disrupt the call centers.
So to pull all of this together, AI voice scams are a cheap, volume-based business model that weaponizes our deepest, most primal human bonds against us. They utilize 3 seconds of scraped audio and caller ID spoofing to hijack our amygdala. And right now, they are operating in a fractured legal landscape where the law has not caught up to the technology.
The burden of protection is firmly on our shoulders.
It is. Which brings us to your action item for today. The second this deep dive ends, we want you to reach out to your family. Establish a secure, obscure, offline safe word. Do not text it. Do not say it near your smart speaker. Have this conversation now before your phone ever rings. Because the single strongest defense you have is the preparation you do when your mind is clear.
It really leaves us with a deeply unsettling reality to ponder. For our entire history as a species, hearing the voice of our child in pain meant one undeniable truth: they needed us. It was the purest signal of distress.
Yeah, it's fundamental to who we are.
But if our very own voices, the raw, emotional sound of our peers, can no longer be trusted as proof of our identity, how will the fundamental nature of human trust have to evolve? In a world where seeing and hearing is no longer believing, how do we prove we are who we say we are?
It makes you wonder if the digital ghost can sound exactly like the people we love most. Maybe the only thing we can truly trust anymore is the secret word we whisper to each other in the dark. Talk to your families, everyone. Stay safe out there.